everybody, Paul Vaillancourt here, back with another improv tip. And today's improv tip is the penultimate of my 6-part series, the 5th of my 6-part series of set games for the Herald. I think you're really going to love this one. It is Slideshow. It's one of my favorite games, which is, of course, why I included it on the list. And it has so many great skills, and it's just a great game by itself. Before we get into it today, though, I wanted to say a little bit about how we made the video, some behind the scenes of how we made the video. When we made the video, we actually left the lights up, and then in editing, I sort of like dimmed them out a little bit, but I didn't go all the way to black because I wanted you to get sort of the sense of what the timing was like, but I also sort of left a little bit of light on so that you could kind of see how the players settle into their slides. I think it's interesting to see all that because when you're on stage doing the game, you can always see it, but when you're learning it, you can't always see it. So I did that so that we could sort of get a really full picture of it. But when you're actually doing the game for real, you want to have a really good communication with the booth, and hopefully you'll get that full blackout because it's that sort of blackout, lights up, blackout, lights up. That is really fun part of the game because it's like, oh my gosh, it's a totally different thing than I saw just a second ago before the lights went out. Even if you know what's coming, it's fun to see that initial reveal. That reveal is really the thing. When the lights come up, you see a whole new crazy slide. I think that's a really fun part of the game. Okay, so I think that's really all I have to say about it. It's a really fun exercise. I think you're really going to like it. So please, right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy Slideshow. Hey everybody, Paul Vaillancourt here. I'm back with another improv tip. In fact, today we are doing the 5th in my 6-part series of set games for the Herald. If you checked out this ding ding playlist here, you'll see all the ones that have come before, including Movie Review, Everyday Olympics, Everybody Get In Here, and Town Meeting, right? Today we're doing number 5, which is Slideshow. Now, that's a super common short form game that people have played for ages and ages, but again, it's one of those games that I think once we learn it and really practice it with a little bit of a long form mindset, it has a ton of lessons for us, not only for a game itself, but also for other applications within the scenes. We'll talk about those coming up. So, how does Slideshow go? Again, as I've said in all the videos up till now, it starts with a clear call, right? So again, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to welcome people to my slideshow in some way. Okay? Now, we talked in Everyday Olympics and Movie Review that this is sort of our narration spot. We use this already also in the improvised movie, right? So here, I am starting off and I'm saying, hey everybody, thanks for coming to my slideshow about my spring break in Cabo. It's super awesome. I think you guys are really going to love it, okay? So when I set it up, so we know it's slideshow. So now, the rest of the ensemble here knows what their job is that when I call for the first slide, again, a clear call. Okay, let's see that first slide. And I've set up the premise. It's my spring break in Cabo slides, right? And I say, okay, let's see that first slide. Then what's going to happen is the people in the booth, they're going to take the lights out. And when that happens, everyone's going to come out and they're just going to make shapes, right? Some sort of like crazy shape. Now here's the thing. When people are doing this, a lot of times the people in the slides want to help the narrator by making a slide that makes sense, right? Counterintuitively, that makes it much, much harder. It's better to just have a blank slate of like random body shapes, and then this person's job is then to make sense out of it, right? So I say, okay, let's have that first slide. Lights go down for a second, all the ensemble comes out, and we make our shapes, whatever that is. Lights come back up, and then the audience and I see the slide for the first time. I look, all right. Fantastic. So, this is our first day, just getting off the plane. It was already a little bit of a disaster, because you can see me, I'm kind of drunk, stumbling down the stairs, and let me tell you, it doesn't get better from there. And then you can see a couple of my friends around, and then one of my friends over there, she met a dog that she really fell in love with, and they were constant friends for the whole thing. Now, I'm just telling little bits of the story. Okay, now Voltaire said, yes, I just brought up Voltaire. Voltaire said that the key to being boring is to tell everything. The key to being boring is to tell everything. So what we need to do as players or as narrators in this game is, I do it this way. One, I say, what is the slide in general? This is us getting there the first day. This is the title of the slide. Then I pick out a couple of details. Oh, there's me stumbling down the stairs. I'm already kind of drunk. And oh, my friend over there, she met a dog that she was a constant companion with for the whole week. Right? And I just say a couple of details, and then I move on to the next slide. What the temptation is for people is to say, this person's this person's that, this person's this person's that. And then you're going to say like 8 or 9 things per slide. It just slows the game way down, and it takes the fun out of it. We want to hit the highlights. What are the most
interesting shapes that draw our attention that if we don't say something about them, it's kind of like we're ducking the slide, we're ducking the game a little bit, right? But we want to start finding what are those most interesting things, boom, 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 boom. That's it, maybe 3 ideas. That was one extra boom. But 3 ideas, bang, 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 right? And then that sort of gives a sense of what it is. And maybe the other people are just background, or maybe they're palm trees, or who knows, but they're not the most interesting parts of the slide. When you look at a picture, you don't inventory every single thing in the picture, right? You're like, and giving the title of that slide, Our First Day Arriving There, helps the audience and the narrator, oddly enough, focus on, here's the big idea. And then I point out, bang, 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 a couple of details. Okay? Then when I've done that, then I say, okay, let's see the next slide. And then the booth again is going to take the lights down to black, and then everyone's just going to move around to a different shape. And then the lights come up. They just give like a couple of seconds from the booth, and the lights come back up. And we all see the slide together. Oh my gosh, this is like a midway through our trip, we decided to have even in Cabo, they have like touristy luau's. So this was a luau, and you can see that I got drawn into playing the pig part. I have a big apple in my mouth there, that's crazy. And then, and then bang, 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 a couple of things. So again, the title of the slide, luau, and I point out a couple of details. Okay, last slide. Now usually we do like either 3 or 5 slides. 5 if it's really going quick, if it's really sort of like a super pacey game, great. Generally, I think industry standard is 3, a beginning, middle, and end. So then, again, next slide, please. Boom, lights come up, and then I title it, and then I put out a couple of details. Now, for the narrator, I need the clear call of the game at the beginning. Hey everyone, thanks for coming to check out my slideshow. Then I need a clear call each time I want to switch slides. I say, first slide, please. Next slide, please. Final slide, please. Something to clearly communicate, because I'm trying to communicate with the booth, right? I'm trying to communicate with them. Hey, take the lights down. In the booth, they're going to take them down, 2, 3, and bring them back up, okay? And then I'll outro the game. Hey, y'all, thanks for coming out for this. For winter break, I'm going up to Aspen. Come back for those slides. It's going to be awesome, right? And then boom, we're into the next game, right? An intro, clear calls along the way, and then an outro. Now, for these players, as I said, you guys are just trying to make interesting shapes, right? Don't worry too much about what it is. I think one sort of bit of advice I would have, or a couple pieces of advice I would have, let's be honest. One is, don't try to make sensible shapes. It makes it harder. 2, keep in mind levels, right? If everyone's just up like this, different versions of that, it's tricky. If someone's really down here, and someone's like whatever over here, I think that makes the picture more interesting to look at and more fun to narrate, right? And then don't overthink it, just quick, right? Because you only have like a couple seconds in the dark, and then boom, right? And then just like that. This is simple. This is a pretty simple job. Oh, the last one. Pick a position that you can hold for like 15 seconds, right? Because the game's quick, but sometimes people will be like up on one arm and like, but they start shaking, right? Just pick a position that you can hold, or try to at least, okay? So that is the basic setup for slideshow. I'm gonna tell you a couple variations and then we're gonna see some of them here. Sometimes we can also do what's called a dueling slideshow, right? So let's say in the opening, we had something about spring break, boom, right? That'll be this slideshow. And I say, hey everybody, thanks for coming to my slideshow about my spring break in Cabo. And then before I start, someone else comes up here and let's say there's something about disease. And they might say, hello everyone, thank you for coming to the CDC. This is a presentation about a super virulent bacteria that's invading our schools. Now it's a dueling slideshow. So what happens is, then this person calls for the first slide. Let's see the first slide, please. Right? First slide. And then they'll be the slide, and I'll narrate it as a spring break slideshow. And then before we move on, I'll narrate it as a disease slideshow. Does that make sense? Yeah. Bang, 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 back and forth. And then after I narrate, then I say, next slide, please. Blackout up, and then when it comes back up, then it's back to me as a spring break slideshow. Does that make sense? Again, 3 slides. Sometimes, as a little sort of flourish on the game, as this is going on, we can sort of get one of each other's slides, right? So it's like 1, 2, and then maybe the third one is I get the disease slide. I'm like, that's weird. That's not for my slideshow. That seems like it's some sort of a disease or something under a microscope. Anyway, it looks pretty gnarly, and that guy's arm looks pretty gross, like he might lose it. And then it comes over to me, and I see it as a spring break. Oh, this is a I'm sorry, this is on spring break, looks like. But I will say, oddly enough, this is a lot of the behaviors that lead to the communication of this disease. So please wear some sunscreen and be careful out there. Just like fun. All right, so that's our slideshow, right? And then I'll wrap it up. Does that make sense? So we can sort of switch sides of slides sometimes, and that's one flourish of the game. I'm going to invite everyone up for a second, so I'm going to shoot 2 more flourishes, but I need to group up on it. Cool, so there are a couple of little flourishes that we do with the slides, but I wanted to illustrate them with everyone here because it's really sort of how the group works together. So let's make a slide. So first slide, please. Great, nice. It's a really nice, I'll just sort of comment on this. It's a really nice slide. It's got different levels, right? Some really dramatic things going on. Now, sometimes on a slide like this, I might say, oh, you know what? The slide's a little bit out of focus. Can we focus it? So as I say, when I say that, let's focus that slide. And then I swing back to you guys, and you guys just evolve your positions out a little bit. There. Oh, there it is. Now you can really see what's happening. And they'll change a little bit, but they're basically evolutions of the position that you're in. Does that make sense for everybody? Yeah. Right? Just like a little bit of like how when you focus on the end, it just changes a little bit, but it's an evolution of kind of that blurry thing that you saw, right? So that's one. Let's next slide, please. These guys turn around. Cool. So we have this here, right? So I see this slide. Another thing that we can do sometimes, I can say, oh, you know what? I'm sorry, that slide's in backwards. So then let's switch it around. So basically then, as these players, maybe you consider me as the 180, we're going to flip basically, everyone orient yourself exactly the same to me now. So just spinning totally around. Right? Great. So they would do that. They know how to do that, right? We sort of agreed as an ensemble, this is how it goes. So then they do that. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. This is the slide I wanted to show you. And then I narrate it from this position, this point of view, okay? So a blurry slide, out of focus slide, or a reverse slide, right? And then they know kind of like to switch. And again, that's me as the narrator calling the slide, giving them some input. I'll say one last thing. We can do the dueling slideshow, but also maybe Carmen comes with me, and Carmen and I are a married couple. I'm like, hey everybody, this is our 1-year anniversary slideshow of what we did on our 1-year anniversary. Right? And so we, as a couple, she would talk too because she's the lady.
Yes, I have words.
Yeah, exactly. But we could do it as a pair, sort of like we do in Everyday Olympics or movie review or whatever. We could do this as a team. That's also another option for it. Okay? So now we'll get everyone situated and we'll have a try. Fantastic. So we heard the setup of the game. We saw some demonstrations of the flourishes. Now I'm going to really let the players loose, let them try it out. I'm going to give them a suggestion to get them going. Their suggestion for the first slideshow will be school trip. School trip. Here we go.
So, it's my first year teaching, so I really wanted to capture all these moments of this experience that I'm having. So I put together a slideshow from my first year teaching. This is the, so let's go to the first slide. Amazing. These are the kids that on the first day of school, I was given a lot of rambunctious. There's Tommy, who is very hungry. He likes to have hamburgers for breakfast. And then there is Lillian over there, who thinks she is a superhero. We work with this. And then we have Bobby with narcolepsy. And yes, this is what I had to work with.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. Okay, this is my first school principal teacher evaluation and about how it went. We were doing a Shakespearean study because 2nd grade is a very appropriate time to start teaching Shakespeare. Tommy wet his pants in the middle of the play. Samantha here professed her undying 2nd grade love for Billy, and the principal just stared judgingly with her finger on her face. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the kids on the last day of school. You can see how much they've evolved. This, back here, we have Tyrone, who just decided he's going to be an astronaut. He really fell in love with all the space stuff that we studied. The principal is in awe of everything that I've taught these kids. Look at her with her hands covering her mouth in majestic disbelief that I'm such an amazing teacher. And Tommy and Timmy here, they are looking at all the ants on the floor because apparently this school is not clean. And this is my first year of teaching in picture, ladies and gentlemen.
Great, really fun, super fun, great. So, Carmen, as a narrator, how did you feel doing it?
I felt like a little stuck, like I felt a little,
It's a lot of pressure.
It was a little bit of pressure, but it was more, I feel like, stuck in the groundiness of that
premise.
Yeah.
Great, fair enough. I'll give you a couple of hints that I think would really help. Listen, do you guys remember the first slide? Yes. Sort of like this, and then you were narcoleptic, and then you were a superhero, yeah, and then you're right, and then alpha, right. So I think sometimes what I do sometimes, if it's a travelogue or some sort of personal experience like this, right, one thing that I'll do sometimes is I'll look in here and I'll try to find someone who I think represents me maybe in the picture, right? So to me, I thought maybe Allison is the teacher, right? Or maybe Allison is not the teacher, maybe Lauren's the teacher, right? And so, but I try to find someone, and then sort of they know I'm giving them a little bit of a cue, and then they can sort of find their way sometimes into the middle of the frame or the edge of the frame or whatever, and they just have like a little bit of an eye to that. They're not trying to make necessarily sensible pictures, but they know, oh, I represent Carmen, so I might put a little bit of a this on it or whatever, right? And you did that a little bit with the principal. When you made Saskia the principal, right, that was super helpful, right? Because you could sort of track her journey a little bit, right?
Yeah.
This is a super helpful idea. I try to find sort of a through line character or idea, or, oh, there's that cop again following us, and I just try to find that, and I oftentimes will assign it to a single player, but sometimes that idea will float around to different players. Right? That cop can be played by 3 different players in 3 different slides, right? But I think that helps. I'm setting myself a little bit of frame around it so that it's not about everything, it's about these things, and it helps me sort of organize my thoughts a little bit, right? Because then I've got that, oh, there's me in the middle, first day, I'm already exhausted, I went out partying the night before, so whatever, and then I just say like, bang, 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 on to the next one.
Great.
Right? I think that really helps. The second thing is, for me, and this is like a little thing that I do, but I really do think that it helps, is when I see the slide, I'm like, okay, great, oh yes, right? And I sort of amp myself up a little bit, right? Instead of like leaning into your nervousness, lean into your excitement about it. So I'm like, okay, oh, right, yes. And I'll give myself a little energetic sort of moment, and then it subconsciously like activates my body and my creativity, and then I'm ready, rather than like, oh, here's this, okay, right. I try to amp, well, thank you guys, you guys are doing awesome. You're free. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, I think sort of when I give myself that title, I try to say that title boldly, because then I'm committed to it, right? Here's my first day of school, bang, this is what it is, bang. Here's my first principal evaluation, bang, right? But if I say that boldly, I feel like that really sort of locks me into that idea, right? And then I think once I do that, sort of like committing to a big playable game in a scene, once I know that this is my thing, then everything that's not that kind of pulls away, and I can really see the thing a little more clearly. Do you feel this?
Totally, yeah.
Cool. And I think with all these games, a really clear, confident call, whatever we're calling, whether I'm calling myself on here's what I'm going to do, or whether I'm calling, next slide, please, and I try to start strong and try to end strong, right? Because that will carry me so far. Like even if I'm on a slide, I'm like, and that's that guy, and that's that guy, okay, next slide, please. And then I reset, and I have a whole new day, a whole new life to the next slide. Does that make sense? You guys feel this, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So people making the slides, how did you guys feel doing it? Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, really fun, right? You're sort of like just holding these different positions or whatever. And I think what I really liked about it, what I thought was really interesting was you guys really took that idea of levels and dramatic sort of positions to heart. So the first one was like low, and then someone was high, and someone was like already all the way down on the floor, and that's great. Carmen, as a narrator, that made it more interesting. You could sort of get a whole sort of plethora of things to pull from.
Yes.
Right? If everyone's just standing up, it's kind of tough. Right? But I think, so let's just review for a second. Strong titles, energetic entry, energetic exit, right? And then sometimes finding that through line character, that through line idea will help us because we know, oh, this is about this, and then that's one person that I know for sure, and I can always start with that one thing that I've kind of planted. Right? Cool. Any questions from you guys? No. Any questions from you guys? Any questions from you? All right, let's give it another try.
Great, that was a really fun first try at the game. I mean, they did a really fun job. I thought the slides were really fun. They had a lot of really nice levels and positions in there, really cool to see. Karen was a little bit nervous and sort of trying to find her feet in the game. A lot of that will sort of sort itself out with practice. The more times you do it and the more times you get used to talking directly to the audience, the better it gets. But there are a few tangible things that we can work on to make this game go a little bit better. One of them, I said in the video, was the idea of a through line character, right? When you're in there sort of, and you're the narrator and you look at the slide, try to find that through line character. Whose story is this? What is the story really about? And try to nail that part down. Because if you have that idea, whether it's one player or one character, sort of implanted in the first slide, then it really makes it easier to go, and then this happened to that person, and then this happened to that person. And so we sort of have at least a starting point. And a good, strong starting point in this game is really helpful because you have that, you can say, well, this is the centerpiece of the slide, and you can sort of fill in things around the slide. I think that's really, really helpful. The second one is sort of that we just need to change our energy a little bit. When we are nervous on stage, when we're lost on stage, I know for me, I do this a lot of times, this is a little trick that I have, so when I'm lost on stage, I double down, right? I really put a lot more energy into the scene. Sometimes that is talking. Sometimes that's not talking. It's just like really being doubly there, doubly energy, double down on my energy of listening to my partners and what's going on in the scene. But I try not to, I think our human inclination is when we're nervous, we lean back. We sort of pull our energy back for survival, right? Our primordial lizard brain kicks in. We're like, I'm going to need this energy to fight or flight very soon, so I'm going to pull it all back. No. In improv, like so many things, we need to, so many things in improv, we need to sort of do the opposite of what seems natural in some ways. And when we're nervous or lost, we need to lean into that, and we need to find our way a little bit more through that, doubling down on that energy. And the last thing is that a really sort of tangible thing that we can do to help ourselves out, in addition to that through line character, is as I see the slide, I try to just sort of like take a real quick gloss of it, and I try to say a title of it. Because like the through line character, the title of the slide really helps us because it really puts like a frame around it, and it sort of like cuts out a lot of things that the slide isn't, right? Once I know, oh, this is our first day there, that really helps me. It's an offer I'm giving myself, right? And it puts like a little frame around the slide, and now all of a sudden my brain stops thinking about things that don't have to do with just getting there or the day we got there, and it can really focus on just that little pocket of information, that little idea. That really makes a big difference. And one of the things I really feel strongly about in the game of the scene, ding ding, we talked about that in that video, but it's the idea that limits, some specific kinds of limits are really good for improv. As I've said plenty of times in these videos, I think one of the hardest things is if someone says, oh, just get up there and do a scene about anything, right? Anything, right? And so one time when we get the suggestion, I think that really helps us because we're like, oh, okay, at least we have this little nugget to work off of, right? And not that we can't do it completely cold, but I think especially when we're in the learning process and we're sort of becoming more seasoned improvisers, that little bit of information, that little idea, that little starting point, whether it's a through-line character or a title of a slide, really helps us out, okay? So let's go, and now let's have a look at their second try at the game.
Fantastic. Well, we just heard some notes on the first round of the game. Let's have another try at it and see another version of the game. For this one, your suggestion is going to be family reunion. Here we go, family reunion.
Hello, welcome to my slideshow. It's incredibly nice that everyone came after my divorce. The family reunion.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to Inmates Corrections Officers 101. We are happy to have you here to learn more about the inmates and what you will deal with.
First slide.
Freeze, I'm just gonna, can you tell us to scoot out a tiny bit? Good. As you guys are doing, especially in a duelist slideshow, we're just gonna need to be a tiny bit more aware of our staging. So as you're setting up, make sure that you're not staged by each other, right? So you can see this.
Yeah.
And we're just I think this is a really great setup, really good. I'm just tweaking a tiny bit. I said this in a previous video, ding ding, about tweaking at the beginning just to get off to a great start. I love the setup. We just need to be a tiny bit more aware of our staging because we're a little bit pushed in a little bit. Here we go, keep going.
As you can see, immediately there was a problem. I had had a little bit to drink and threw a tantrum on the floor. Clearly it was worthwhile though and necessary. My husband, Jameson, was a brute, a complete brute, accusing my uncle of being a bear to me and the rest of my family. I couldn't stand for that. I threw a tantrum as Daddy taught me to.
Now, this is a slide from my first day. As you can see me back there, I'm go ahead checking butts. I walk around, check everybody's butts. It's a classic thing you're gonna have to do. This man right here is a murderer. His name is Johnny Stevens. He likes to murder people by staring at them until they can't take it. Be careful out there, officers, because you will run into a murder Stevens. Next slide. Oh, I seem to have reversed this one. My apologies. Let me fix that for you. I just want you to know that you'll always be looking at the back of heads. Inmates like to hide things, all right, guys? So you need to be aware of who the most dangerous person in the room is at all times. As you can see, I've been knocked down. I'm out. All right, so this is where backup comes in, right? We have some jazz hands right here. By the way, on Thursdays, we do an open mic for the inmates. Little jazz hands goes a long way. It reveals the inmate. But this man right here is the most dangerous man alive. He's reading a book. Do you imagine how free the minds might be, what they might do?
This was really the culmination of why the end of times of my marriage happened. As you can see, I was just trying to rally behind my family. Rally behind. Because my husband had given up on life. Given up on life. I, like Daddy told me, had stopped throwing the tantrum, even though he was now throwing a tantrum in the corner. And I said, husband, Jameson, you will pick yourself back up and be a man. I put my hand up in allegiance to marriage. And instead, he went with cousin Rebecca. Next slide. As you can see, I was ready to turn a new leaf in life. I decided that in order to go to prayer, to myself, I was going to leave my family. We had a nice chanting session, a good moment of Om, and my daddy fell asleep to my soothing words as we ended the relationship with Jameson and cousin Rebecca from the family of a new leaf.
If we give rules to our inmates, they will worship us like gods. That is, of course, what happens around the 3-month mark if they trust you. If not, you'll probably be stabbed. I was one of the unlucky ones, but I survived. No need to worry, everybody. I survived. Make sure, though, that on your way out, you take your baton and whistle, and you have a great day out there on your first day as a prison guard.
Thank you so much for supporting me through this trying and transformative time.
Very nice, very nice. It's really fun. It's really fun, great. So, really cool. How did it feel doing it?
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did it feel doing it?
That's great.
Great. So one thing they sort of did a little innovation on the game where Sheldon saw the opportunity to switch the slide, and so he sort of like hung on to the reins for a second where strict turn take would be this, but that's totally fine, right? You sort of like, okay, I know where we're going. one of the great things of having the set game in mind is you know the big picture, you kind of know the progression of it. So if we switch it up a little bit, so if we take a little bit of innovative tactic on it, we're not like, oh my god, what's going to happen now? We know generally what's going to happen next is another slide, and another slide, and another slide. I would say I thought the narrations were both really good. Again, I would marry myself down to this narration spot and try not to get involved in the slide. Try not to get involved in the slide. I think it really makes a big difference for the look of the game. But again, I like your sort of, you both picked a character to represent you, or a player to represent you. How did that help in doing it?
Oh, yeah. Instantly helped tell the story.
Yeah, because we know we're tracking your story through as well.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever choice Stan made, I was like, I guess that's where I'm at now. So.
Great, cool. And it helps you because it pushes you, well, I've got to sort of, where am I in this picture, right? And sometimes if we put ourselves in the picture, it helps because I'm like, oh, I've been in pictures before. I kind of can find my way a little bit. And I like all the sort of the different dynamics. This story of your divorce at your family reunion is really funny. And then this instructional video of Correctional Officer 101. I think that the two setups are really great, really different, and we can see two different, and the fun is we can see two different interpretations of this same random collage of people. I think it's really fun. One sort of tiny technical note is when we're doing, if you're sort of the calling for the last slide or the third slide, I think that it really helps the audience and it helps the players to say, last slide, please. I know it sounds like a tiny thing, but once I say, last slide, please, if anyone has any idea that they haven't used yet, or they're like, oh, I don't know, or they're what, but we also get a sense of like, this is the last thing. So subconsciously or involuntarily, it influences that slide. I think it really makes it that last slide somehow, right? And also for the audience, we now are tracking the progress of the game, and we know, oh, this isn't going on. This is the last one. Oh, so we're now excited. We're like, oh my gosh, right? And I think it really helps sort of everyone sort of get on the same page energy-wise, like here's what's gonna happen, okay, this is the last slide, if I have an idea I've been holding back, I'm gonna put it in now, or whatever. And it also sort of helps me, I think all these calls help us too. If I make a super clear call, it helps me because I know, okay, now I've gotta say the ending, right? We were talking before we started filming, and Alison was saying how, here's the thing, right? I said in this video, ding ding, here's the thing, really helps out because it kind of commits you to saying something else, right? It commits you to the next thing. Same thing here, if I say last slide please, it commits me to saying the ending. And I think that really pushes my creative, it stokes my creative fire a little bit, it really gets me ready to do that thing, okay? Any questions or comments from you guys? No, any questions or comments from you guys? Fantastic, that's Slideshow, everybody. See you next week. We have been the Improv Tip Players, and individually we are
Carmen Scott.
Allison Norris Austin.
Saskia Mueller.
Jared Lennon Kaufman.
John Meehan. Stan McConnell.
Lauren Baumauer.
Chell Hernandez.
And I'm Paul Vaillancourt. I'm going to link all their social information in the description down below.
Ding, 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 ding,
If you can check them out, please watch them and follow them. Thanks for watching.